Well, I'll just start. Tell us your name and your occupation.
My name is Tom. My occupation.
Last name? Sorry.
So, Tom Patota.
Gotcha.
My occupation is a federal contractor down in the state of Maryland at an Army base known as Aberdeen Proving Grounds. But on the weekends, I commute up to the Philadelphia area for the position to find myself at a baby's breath.
Okay. So you're how many years employed are you down or Aberdeen? Not saying it right.
Current company, 3+ years.
Okay. And that was your job right out of college, or?
Had an internship in the summer after, but then in August I was hired.
Okay.
After graduation.
And what was your position in a baby's breath?
Was or currently?
Or is? I don't know.
Yeah. I used to be a donation coordinator, like on a broad sense, but my current job is a director of one of the 5 centers, which is the Jayville Center.
Okay.
I'm also an advocate, so I help with meeting with clients, establishing their goals, and basically just being kind of like almost a parenting figure in their lives with, educating them, making sure they don't feel alone, in their journey that they find themselves in. So
how often do you do that, I guess?
So as far as meeting the clients in person, I do that just once a week, if that. I usually come up from Maryland to the center in they call it Jeffersonville, but it's really like West Nardin area, which is about an hour 45 minutes away from me. I do that almost every Saturday, depending on my schedule. And I'll be there for 2.5 hours, meeting with clients, sometimes range from 1 to sometimes 5, depending on how the day goes, which sometimes bleeds over 2.5 hours, but, it's for, something that's charitable, so of course it's worth it.
2.5 hours of driving, though, that seems like a lot. Do you stay somewhere close by?
I'm grateful to have the situation where my parents' place is just 10 minutes away from the center.
Gotcha. So. But it's still a drive every weekend. But does that take up a lot of your time? Do you still get the chance to do other things?
I mean, you get into the routine of basically, driving up either Friday or Saturday night, or Friday night or Saturday morning, go to the center, and do, working out and stuff like that, like adoration if I'm feeling like up for it, and then have whatever social life after that. So
you just at U of Intuum yesterday, yeah, so I know you do other things, but does it feel like you have time for a social life?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, it's really only like an hour 40 minutes I'm just taking away, which I felt with, prayer time, with, podcasts that, I usually don't have patience for, other than if I have nothing else to do other than drive. So I try to find aspects where it becomes fruitful, not just me going like, oh, here I go driving again, to that one thing I keep doing every week. So,
well, at least you have that commitment. Is there something that draws you into being a director that you feel personally called to?
Well, I guess I do it out of love for my mother, as well as your mother.
Yeah, I know her.
Yeah.
I love her too.
Good. Just knowing all she did to start the organization, and having a lot of respect for what she went through as far as, starting it, personal experience she had maintaining it, as far as governing it through her own policies. I felt like there was a need for me there, where I was like, I would very much enjoy meeting with people in need, just feeling like a nice charitable need I have,
Yeah, filling a need. You also mentioned that Mom was running this organization, when we were kids, little kids, babies. Mm-hmm. At what age did you decide that you wanted to be a part of helping the organization?
I think growing up, I had just if mom needed help with something, like whether it be like helping close tables at like the silent auction, or like, as I said first, with the donation coordinator, where I basically helped update the active client list, like I would do that. Just because,
It'd be like one thing out of the year that you'd have to do, and then that was it.
I guess, I did that, and then I guess it dawned on me, like, I'm pro-life. I'm this pro-life, network, but I don't feel like I'm really doing like stuff like, not necessarily on a day-to-day, but just on like maybe a week basis,
You felt like you were saying you're pro-life, but not acting pro-life.
So I guess, being pro-life, like proactively pro-life, I guess, makes more sense, and I wanted to do something more so than just praying outside of abortion clinics, which is, it's good, it's fruitful, it's because any time where you pray, it's that way. But I wanted to just kind of get in and know exactly what like the true service that a baby's breath does, and do my best to actively try to assist them that way, because, the advocate part, I'll admit it sounds somewhat intimidating for me, because, it seems to be the role for like a counselor, which, I mean, luckily with the training that we have, and as well as eventually meeting the clients, it became less of that. It just, in my opinion, feels like anyone can like have a conversation with somebody, and sometimes that's all it takes to counsel these women, because they sometimes that's all they need. Sometimes they only need someone to pray with them. Sometimes all they need is baby stuff, and like all three of those things I can easily do as a good Catholic man,
So putting the simplicity of it, you have to have ears to hear and a heart that's willing to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't come into your life as a calling until, say, your young adult life.
I'd say so.
So, not to give my mom shout out when she's not here, but that was the case for all our children. We were around pro-life. We respected it. We thought it was something that should be well represented and well mission driven, but we were not forced into it. It was our calling into it, and we accepted it. And now all our children help in our own way. I do interviews. He does the actual work. Mm-hmm. Josh does some coordinating here and there. Vic does some coordinating here and there. Maybe a little bit of reluctance, but also willingness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is what gives the best fruit, is once the call is ripened to proceed and, gather the fruit of what it means to be pro-life. Do you feel like what is your heart for these people that come in with a broken life? Because they obviously come with a past that we wouldn't be able to relate to. Mm-hmm. We grew up with both parents and they loved each other.
I guess it's really comes down to just having a true love for your fellow man, and wanting what's best for them, because St. Thomas Aquinas defines love as willing the good of the other person, I believe.
Yeah, you got that documented? Where do you put that from?
So to love someone, you want to, of course, achieve the higher good for them, the best good for them. And with the baby's breath, we do that in basically like all aspects of that. We try to do it spiritually as well as materially, They come to us, with a very, broken system of just their mindset on like how to live their lives, where they feel like they're in like broken families, they're broken relationships. That's not contorted with, human flourishing, in our opinion, as well. And then they've also found themselves in economic despair, where they can't afford, daycare for their kids. They can't go, like the husbands or boyfriend, whatever they call them. They have trouble with employment, for whatever reason. So, and we feel like, of course, we try to connect to them with the spiritual aspect of it, but we find that kind of blank a little bit with that.
That's right.
But
yeah, it sounds like you offer the services to pull them out of a broken lifestyle to live a more whole lifestyle with faith driven behind it. Kind of give them encouragement that they need. I guess, is there things that you were not expecting that you've learned about seeing all these people come in? I guess going into it, did you think, oh, I can just say the magic words and their life will be healed? Or did you think, oh, these are people that are going to be tough to work with, or what?
I guess the important thing is to have patience with these women, because of course it makes our job a lot easier if they just come here for like, I don't know, 1 or 2 visits. We like tell them like, oh, like maybe if you did this instead, then maybe things will work out. And they say, oh, I didn't think of it that way. And then, they have a set plan forward, and then they go on, and then maybe we nominate them to the independence program. And then they find themselves out of crisis, but more times than not, I realize that, strong patience with them is a must, because I guess the world around them is, I guess, not patient, in a sense. It's a very like busy, like everything wants, deadlines met, everything needs to be done to a T, So I guess we offer them a little more like, I guess like almost like a slowdown of that, where we just say, calm down, like think about like what you need to do, think about what you need to plan to do. Think about what you need to incorporate in your life to make sure you're living a fruitful life, So
How do you achieve the level of patience required to be, I guess, an advocate?
Prayer.
Prayer.
You need to pray for this. Of course, we're a Catholic organization, so of course we have a heavy reliance on prayer, Hence why we have our leadership course in a Catholic shrine. In our shift procedures, we always have a little prayer to Saint Therese, which unfortunately I don't have memorized, but that's basically there to make sure, like, hypothetically, if an advocate didn't have the chance to pray before coming there, that they do so, knowing that that they're doing everything they can in that instance, and our definition of the word as Catholics is total reliance on God, because sometimes, you're not sure, if a certain client comes in that is his will that you need to learn patience with them, like how I mentioned, or if it's their will to learn patience or some other virtue that, he's trying to instruct us. But it's definitely a nice spiritual formation that can occur with advocate work.
You mentioned Saint Therese Lisieux, and I want to highlight her because she was big on not being the rose of the garden, but being the little flower. Meaning, don't be the biggest. Don't try to do more than what you think, what God has made you capable for, or be the smallest instrument of God's will that you can, and not try to do more. Do you feel it's a struggle to say, I want to help all these women? I know I can. Do you feel like there's that sort of that desire to do it? How do you feel called to be more humble within yourself, to not say, I can do all these things in a baby's breath? I should but know that you really are just limited in your time and resources. What kind of keeps you mentally focused with that aspect?
I guess perhaps, like you said, like just stay humble and admit that what you can do for the organization. Like sometimes it's only like myself, where I'm only going to the center for 2.5 hours on a Saturday. Sometimes that can be, a Thursday night from like 6:30 to 8 or something like that. I guess it's important to communicate that with your team, like as well as your director, which is something I need to deal with as well on a daily basis, to understand like what all of our volunteers are capable with and what they admit they're capable with, and to plug and play with them where I see fit. So
you mentioned it. That's your role as a director, to say, okay, I have limited availability, but I have a team of people. I'm not just my own entity. I can't solve every person's problem, but I have people that can. What is that management like? How do you feel with working with other people that share the same goals, but maybe they have different personalities that you want to try and incorporate into the same mission, but definitely different strategies of going through communications?
Well, I guess I definitely would like to hear them out on their, what they disagree with as far as the management style, because again, it goes back to humility, like, sure, I might think wholeheartedly that what I'm doing is the way, but it could just be my own desires thinking that way, and not necessarily like God, I guess God inspired, So, which again, goes back to prayer, which, bringing it to prayer, you basically try to examine, like, you ask God, it's like, hey, am I doing everything you call to me to do? Did I do enough for you today? Which, is a nice life lesson in general, not just going to any organization that's like a baby's breath. But I'd say for those people I disagree with, I would guess try to hear them out and see if there can be middle ground. But if there's times where I need to take a stand, then I feel I need to, and then perhaps revisit in prayer later if there's any recourse.
So using the wisdom that's granted to you, and then pray for more.
More would be good.
Okay. So then I guess the last question I'm going to ask, what really inspires you to help women, or help women that you see broken? What is it that, where do you draw from the most from within yourself to say, I need to help these people? Because if it's, someone telling you to do it, it's not quite as convicting as I feel it from inside that I have to help. I have to put something forth.
Right. I guess it's the thought process that Jesus tells us in, I forget which gospel, but, the best thing you can do in life is to lay down your life for your friends, which, doesn't necessarily mean, you being a martyr for them. It just means, you're to sacrifice for them. And so I feel a great sense of fulfillment in life, just sacrifice my time, sacrificing my, energy for these women that, find themselves in need. And it goes back to just, as well as for, our mom, who put such long hours, such great amount of, effort into establishing this organization as it is today, that I feel like I'm being charitable towards her, as well as, showing an act of love for her as well.
Gotcha. Yeah. So. That's sort of how I feel. Yeah.
Good.
Could have said it better myself. But I hear what you mean. Jesus said, take up your cross and follow me. He also said, when I was poor, you didn't, you fed me. So to pick up your cross and to help these women have the life that you were blessed to have them have a chance to understand that sounds like your call. And obviously paying it forward is the best way of giving that. So, but no, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for communicating that. So
sure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anytime.